Operators of the Ukrainian Raid battalion, part of the Unmanned Systems Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, successfully carried out an operation to destroy the Russian Strela-10 anti-aircraft missile system in Donetsk region. The incident occurred during a reconnaissance mission using a drone. Footage from the operation was published on the official SBS channel. During the mission, the drone was spotted by Russian military personnel who immediately launched a missile at it. However, the pilot managed to remotely perform a precise and sharp maneuver, thanks to which the device avoided being hit. After the unsuccessful launch, the SAM crew tried to hide the installation in a forest plantation. Despite the emergency shelter, the Ukrainian operators maintained contact with the target and continued tracking. When the Russian installation began to change position, the raid launched a precise strike on it. As a result of the attack, the anti-aircraft missile system was reportedly completely destroyed along with its crew. Strela-10 is a Soviet mobile, short-range anti-aircraft missile system. The system is designed to destroy low-flying air targets, including helicopters, attack aircraft, and drones. The system is mounted on the MT-LB tracked chassis, which provides it with increased cross-country ability. Target engagement range is up to 5 kilometers. Altitude of engagement is from 25 to 3,500 meters. Missile speed is up to 500 m/s. The system's response time is about 8 seconds. Ammunition load is up to 8 missiles. The cost of one Strela-10 installation, depending on the modification, is estimated at between 1.5 and 3 million US. Earlier, media reported that the SBS showed footage of the first ever liquidation of the M1991. This is the first confirmed case of such equipment being destroyed by the Ukrainian military. The operation took place in the Novopavlovsk direction. Operators of the 413th Raid Battalion used an attack drone to hit the vehicle from behind. As a result of the strike, the M1991 ammunition detonated and one of the missiles pierced the cabin, in which there were 2 Russian servicemen. Judging by the video published by the fighters, both were seriously injured and fell out. After the cabin was penetrated, a chain reaction began. The entire vehicle detonated powerfully. The installation was completely destroyed. The M1991 MLRS is a North Korean analog of the Soviet Uragan, which, with an increased caliber of 240 millimeters and a range of up to 60 kilometers. The presence of such vehicles in service with the Russian forces became known only in April 2025. Then the first video of this equipment appeared on the internet. For several months now, Russia has been witnessing an unprecedented wave of arrests of officials who have been robbing the country for years. However, even the scale of the thefts will not be able to bring Russians to protest against the Kremlin authorities. This was stated in a commentary to Glavred by the former head of the Luhansk Military Civil Administration, former Deputy Minister for Temporarily Occupied Territories and Internally Displaced Persons, Georgy Tuka. Tuka noted that over the past 3 months, Russia has seen an unprecedented wave of arrests, ranging from Shoigu's deputies, who have already received 13 years in prison, and representatives of Zolotov's structure to the heads of the Rostec State Corporation. According to him, the Kremlin has finally realized that Putin will not be able to defeat even Ukraine in the conditions of large-scale corruption. This is why he began to punish his effective managers, who had been plundering the state for years. At the same time, Tuka expressed skepticism about the narratives about a possible uprising of the great Russian people that the so-called good Russians have been promoting for years. In his opinion, this is nothing more than fiction. And even if the last argument of kings is used, that is, the price of vodka increases 100-fold, Russians will not come out to protest and will simply distill home brew. And changes in the financial and economic situation will not particularly outrage this public because it has been living for years without sewage and running water. Therefore, a scenario that envisages a protest by Russians is impossible, he concluded. Recall that public discontent with the actions of the authorities is growing in Russia, but people are afraid to openly protest because of harsh repressions. The scale of persecution is reminiscent of Stalin's times. This was stated by Russian economist Vladimir Milov, noting that citizens are intimidated by long prison terms. Political and economic expert Taras Zagorodny noted that in the Russian Federation there is a different attitude towards people who participate in the war for money, which is why previous protests by soldiers' mothers and isolated anti-war initiatives have come to naught. At the same time, the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine reports that in some regions of Russia there is a growing discontent among workers at enterprises who are beginning to go on strike. Russian propaganda is no longer able to hide the failure. The Russian army's offensive in the Sumy region has stalled, and the losses have been so serious that Z channels have started talking about it openly. Thus, the propaganda channel Northern Channel, associated with the Russian armed forces, published a post in which it described in detail the defeat of Russian units in this section of the front. The elimination by the Ukrainian Defense Forces of the command of the 155th Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces, which was operating in this direction, completely demoralized the group. The 30th Motorized Rifle Regiment of the Russian Armed Forces continues to be in a less than ideal position in Kondratovka. The 177th Regiment and the 40th Brigade have been wiped out almost completely. The other day, part of the 177th refused to go to the combat mission. The 155th cannot take control of the unfortunate village. One company has been lost. The 810th Marine Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces is the most combat-ready, but it is rushing head-on, and there is an excellent chance of losing it, the authors of Z Channel report. According to them, the situation has become much more complicated due to the new commander of the 155th Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces, Sukrab Akhmedov, nicknamed Bucha. He is known as a commander who sends soldiers into senseless and bloody attacks, regardless of losses. The offensive, which was intended as a show of force, turned into an ignominious failure. Ukraine, despite constant pressure, continues to successfully contain the enemy and deal him heavy blows. Like many Ukrainian cities, Sumy has been scarred by war. It saw heavy fighting early in the full-scale invasion and has, in the last year, become a frequent target of Russian drones, missiles, and guided bombs. Now, Ukraine's top general, Alexander Syrsky, says at least 50,000 Russian troops have massed on the other side of the border, though Ukraine has so far managed to thwart them. The region of Sumy borders Russia's Kursk region. Last summer, Ukraine launched a surprise incursion into Kursk. The operation was intended to distract Russia and pull Russian troops from vulnerable sections of the eastern front line. As Russian troops slowly clawed back most of Kursk, attacks on Sumy and its regional capital, Sumy City, increased.